at this thing. Isn't it the worst? Like, I saw this at a Walmart and I was just like, that is awful. I kind of want it. I'm not going to put it on though because my format's already a little too similar to Jim Sterling, so I don't need to give people any more reason to call me a knockoff. Before we begin this week, I just want to say I know about the whole voice actor situation that's going on right now. It's another one of those discussions, like, I feel like, one, I'm not qualified enough to talk about it. I don't know enough on the subject. Pretty much my opinion on the situation just goes down to, yeah, a lot of these arguments are things that should have been there in the first place, and to those of you who are getting mad at the voice actors for going on strike and demanding the things that you also don't have, you're blaming the wrong people, okay? Just blame the corporation that's denying both of you these services that you should have had to begin with in the first place, okay? Go after the source of the problem. That's how you fix the problem, okay? You want me to put it on, don't you? Okay, just please contribute to my analytics first, please?
First, you have to come up with a concept, something your entire team agrees upon and will be passionate about for the next few years or so. Then comes the planning, which means assigning a budget, appointing roles, and planning out who will do what and when, and then you have to create assets, figure out how they'll all be programmed together, and you just know that someone is going to get sick during all this, or accidentally delete that core file everyone needed and will have to spend the next 2 months recreating. And even if you get past all that, then you will have to test what you've built as thoroughly as possible at multiple stages of development to see what works and what doesn't. Hours of production will be spent just squashing bugs, seeing if anything is missing, and you're still going to miss things regardless that'll go into the final product despite your best efforts. What I'm trying to say here is that the developers that actually care bend over backwards to make sure that the game you're buying from them is as good as it can possibly be. But at the end of the day, they are a team with a limited budget, limited time, and limited people that's trying to deliver a specific experience with a specific creative vision. Their player base doesn't have that limitation. As far as I know, video game hacking and modding has been around since the early days of Doom, and possibly even further back than that. The ability to take a pre-existing experience that you already enjoy and tweak it just slightly enough to suit your liking is too enticing a possibility for most people to pass up, encouraging fans of a number of properties to pick up a whole new skill set they might never have touched otherwise. Some of these people have even chosen to hone their craft, moving on to professional careers at places like Bungie and Obsidian, and some entire mods have been reimagined and reworked as standalone games in their own right, like Team Fortress 2, Counter-Strike, and Gary's mod. For heaven's sake, Defense of the Ancients 2 started out as a mod of Warcraft, and now it's one of the most played games in the entire world, boasting tournament prize pools that out-muscle the Super Bowl. Even if you don't have the technical know-how to make whole new classes in Torchlight or give your courier costumes in New Vegas, there's still a ton of fun to be had enjoying other people's work and spreading the word to your friends about that time you fought Macho Man in Skyrim or shot up San Andreas as Winnie the Pooh. Good mods can help build a community around certain games and keep sales going for quite some time. When DayZ started gaining traction, Arma 2 shot to the top of Steam sales charts 3 years after its initial release. Even today, a mod got made for the Pokemon Sun and Moon demo that removed the black lines around the character models, and it looks really good. Like, definitively better in my opinion. And let me reiterate that this was a mod for a demo on a handheld console, no less, for a game that hasn't even come out yet. Just, wow, I can't even fathom the hoops you had to jump through to do that. So as we've seen, encouraging the practice of modding can build your fanbase and exposure, help you continue to make money even off older games, and probably more so than usual, encourage others to create masterpieces of their own, which, last I checked, is the whole point of an artistic medium. So why don't we see more widespread adoption of things like the Steam Workshop, or Bethesda's current effort to try and get mods on consoles? I want you to compare what you usually see on the Fallout 4 mods nexus, even the top rated and most downloaded mods, to something like Nuka World or Far Harbor. The studios responsible for creating the framework mods are made in might not have the infinite resources their communities do, but once the base is established, they can churn out additional content for it a heck of a lot faster than we can. I like to think Bethesda approaches its modding scene like competition in a way, that they challenge themselves to create DLC miles ahead of what anyone without a professional studio could, in such a timely manner that people will be willing to buy it anyway. That's a pretty ballsy stance if it's actually the case, and I applaud that kind of community friendliness. It lets them make extra money off a game while still allowing this cool other aspect to exist outside their direct control. And in some way, it also guarantees the pressure will be on them to deliver with every piece of additional content. But consider this. Mainline entries in Bethesda's most famous franchises don't actually come out that often. Before Fallout 4, the last big RPG we had was Skyrim, and that was released 5 years prior. But that's okay, considering these games are built to last you a while and encourage multiple playthroughs even after you're technically done. To tell the entire industry to adopt a mod-friendly strategy is to assume every company wants to, or even can, turn single games into years-long platforms for revenue. See, I've had a look through the Steam Workshop, and there are some legitimately good games in there supporting it that have a depressingly small number of contributions. Games like Guacamelee and Mercenary Kings are fun in their own right, but they're one-and-done adventures. Once you see the credits roll, the only reason you'd have to go back to it is either because you're a speedrunner or because you're doing it just for fun. And sad to say, compared to something like Elder Scrolls, there just aren't that many people who fall into either category. There's no competitive multiplayer, no other branches on the skill tree to try and explore, and definitive variables that can tell you if you've truly seen everything the game has to offer. I will not deny for a second that there are some games out there where the DLC really did not deliver, but as Bethesda shows us, not everything studios try to sell you on top of the base game is horse armor. In fact, sometimes they can release entire other games in the time it takes them to let a modding community blossom forth, if it can even blossom forth at all. And that's one of the hardest parts of being a game developer. At a certain point, you have to draw a realistic line in your head of whether or not mod support would actually benefit your game. If it's worth devoting all the time and resources necessary to make it a reality when it simply won't pay off in the long run. Or if that kind of effort would be better spent just making a stronger standalone experience. This is one of those unavoidable parts of how the industry works, of how any industry works. As much as my love of gaming drives me to create, I can't pay my utility bills with passion, and my stomach needs more than fire to keep it full. If I want to stay afloat, I need to treat this whole business thing like, well, a business. So as much as I love streaming on Twitch, right now I need to step off that platform for a while so that I can figure out how much time I can actually devote to that and still get everything I need to do done. That's called scheduling, and without it, you end up with last-minute chaos and missed deadlines that both cut into the quality of what you release and leave the people you made promises to feeling disappointed. Hello, RTGs 25. The fact of the matter is that companies are in this to make money, because the more money they make, the more games they can produce. So if some feature will end up costing them more money than it will generate, they probably aren't going to do it. That's just good business. And that's what official mod support is. A feature. A design element, which needs to be put up to scrutiny just as much as anything else you consider when making a game. Just like some stories would be better told as RPGs and some as first-person shooters, some games, as weird as it sounds to say, are probably better off without mod support. And if developers do miss their chance with a game that could have benefited from it, well, that's their loss. Oh no, you've been spooked.
It smells like minimum wage in this thing.